We have a 2001 Oldsmobile Silhouette, and we're going to go through the steps in order to replace the fuel pump. You always want to bleed the pressure off the system before doing any fuel pump repairs. We'll do this by using our relief valve on our gauge and catching the fuel into a safe container. Before doing any repairs, disconnect the negative battery cable. In order to do a proper fuel pump replacement, we need to clean the inside of the tank, and that will require the removal of the tank. Disconnect the fuel filler hose and vent hose at the rear of the tank. At the front of the tank, disconnect the two emissions lines. Because of the condition of the emissions line, you may be required to use a small screwdriver in helping to separate the emissions fitting. At the front of the tank, disconnect the fuel lines and the emission line located near the fuel filter. Be sure and capture any residual fuel into a safe container. We placed a cap on the fuel filter to keep it from draining while doing the repair. Disconnect the electrical connection from the chassis. Remove the harness from the retaining clips. Disconnect the carbon canister from the chassis mount. Remove the center strap, support the tank, then remove the two remaining straps. As you lower the tank, be sure and work the vent line out of the frame. It's always a good idea, before removing the module, to remove as much debris from the outside of the tank as possible. With the outside of the tank thoroughly cleaned, we're ready to remove the fuel pump module. Disconnect the tank pressure sensor. Remove the safety retainer from the fuel pump connector before removing. Disconnect the fuel lines and remove the retainers. We will reuse these on the new module assembly. In order to remove the module assembly from the tank, you will be required to use a spanner wrench. These are attainable at most parts stores. Remove the fuel pump module from the tank. Keep in mind there's a reservoir at the bottom of the module that will hold residual fuel. Be sure and capture this into a safe container. At this point, we need to drain the remaining fuel into a safe container and then clean the inside of the tank. We want to be sure that the tank is as clean as possible to allow a clean environment for the fuel pump. With the inside of the tank thoroughly cleaned, we're now ready to install the new Airtex module assembly. Be sure and remove the red protective cap from the end of the sender arm. Install the sender arm fully into the sender assembly. Place the tank seal onto the top of the tank. Install the module assembly into the tank. The tank seal can be a little tricky. Take your time and make sure it's seated properly. Reinstall the tank ring, turning it clockwise using the spanner wrench. Connect the fuel lines. On this application, we're required to replace the harness connector for the fuel pump. The updated connector kit is included with the new Airtex fuel pump module. As you raise the tank into position, be sure and work the vent line back through the frame rail. With the tank fully raised into position, reattach the tank straps and the carbon canister. Reconnect your emissions line and fuel lines. Reconnect the electrical connector to the chassis and install the harness into the retainers. Install the fuel filler hose and vent line. With the fuel pump installed, reconnect the negative battery cable. Cycle the key 3 to 4 times in order to charge the system. Start the vehicle and monitor pressure, making sure it's within vehicle specifications. Now before we remove our pressure gauge, we'll shut the vehicle off and bleed the pressure using our pressure gauge, making sure to capture any fuel into a safe container.